This is the Modern Therapist Consumer Guide, a series of special episodes to help modern therapists navigate products and services specifically designed for therapists and their clients.
We dig deeply into the companies, the people, and the products and services so you can make smart decisions in building your practice and serving your clients.
You're listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide, where therapists live, breathe, and practice as human beings. To support you as a whole person and a therapist, here are your hosts, Curt and Katie Vernoy.
Welcome back, Modern Therapists. This is the Modern Therapist Consumer Guide with Curt and Katie Vernoy, and this is one of those podcasts where we talk about really cool people and the things that they're doing in our field and things that might benefit your practice. We are joined by Raunak Sharma, CEO of Thrizer, and we are super excited to have you here and talk about Thrizer and about all of the wonderful features and the way that you're helping out therapists and clients in the reimbursement space. You've heard our partnership with them at a lot of our Modern Therapist podcast episodes as a sponsor and partner, and we really just wanted to share with you a little bit more about what their services are all about and how it works, and they're just really cool people. So rather than getting too long in me introducing you, we start a lot of our episodes with who are you and what are you putting out into the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Curt. Great to be back. Great to see you again, and Katie. My name is Raunak Sharma. I founded Thrizer, and we say that Thrizer is a payment platform that's built for therapists. And our unique differentiating factor is that we're integrated or connected with health insurance companies to help clients automate and offload the out-of-network process.
So how did you decide to create Thrizer? How did you put together the business? How did you decide what pieces you wanted to have in this payment processing application?
I've been a long time therapy goer, as I call it, for many years now. And so, my desire to build something in the mental health space has been there for a while. And I kind of just started looking at what problems I personally was facing as I went to therapy. And, my therapist, or a lot of my therapists during my search didn't accept the insurance carrier that I had. And so I've had a lot of experience with just receiving super bills, submitted them to my insurance company, waiting for the reimbursement back, and kind of all the struggles that went along with that. So when I went out to improve the mental health space, I knew that this was an area I wanted to tackle, and I wanted to approach it in a unique way. And I think, as we'll kind of talk about what Thrizer does, how it works, I think that we've really found a good solution to differentiate ourselves.
Okay, you've described your mission. What is the values that guide your business and your business decisions? A lot of our audience really likes to know that we support good people, and we like to get people talking about, like, what is it that's really underneath all of this and guiding you?
Well, the founding principle, I guess you could say, was that this idea that therapy should be accessible to all. So, therapy changed my life. It's changing millions of people's lives. It's a, absolute game changer in your healing, recovery, growth process. Just a wonderful tool to have. And, there's just a strong belief that, people who want or need this should be able to get it. And, as I'm starting to build in the mental health space, we realize part of the problem is the gap in what providers need to take care of their clients and earn what they're worth. And so that became another value of ours, that providers should be paid what they're worth. And we believe that these two things together can drastically improve outcomes for all. But, traditionally, the way to bridge that gap was health insurance. And when it comes to mental health, we all know that health insurance can be a little bit outdated, and there's so many struggles that come with that. So, building Thrizer was a way to tackle this issue of, how can we make therapy accessible to all while still making sure providers are paid what they are worth, because they go through a lot of their own training, schooling, they struggle to get a license, struggle to get clients. It's a lot. And, the last thing they want to be doing is getting super low rates or fighting for their money.
Part of what Curt and I have talked about a few different times in the course of this is it 5 years now that we've been on the podcast? There's a lot of different things that come up around money for therapists, and there's a lot of different options for therapists and like how they get paid for their work. We've had the debates around getting paid your worth, getting paid what you need to live, a livable wage. We've had a lot of those conversations, but even in deciding your practice, there's that element of, am I private pay? Do I take insurance? Do I do out of network billing? There's a bazillion different payment processing options. And so when therapists are actually putting together their practice and making this decision, what do you think they should consider in designing this part of their practice?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think the financial realm of the business is important, and it's a touchy subject because it is in the healthcare field and it's specifically mental health. But therapists are people. They to take care of their clients, to practice, to provide their best of care. They need to feel supported. They can't be stressed about their income. So, setting up a private practice, you're going to want to consider things like, how much can I earn? What is going to be the cost of that revenue, or what of the software that I'm using? Things like payment processors or EHRs, and then actual cash flow is something that is important and a huge problem with insurance. And so, as kind of earnings, a lot of people don't accept insurance because of the low rates. And so when you're kind of deciding going down that route of how to get paid, that's a huge consideration. On top of that, when you do accept insurance, the provider itself is going to be waiting for reimbursement. So that can impact your cash flow, could put stressors on your practice. So another huge consideration. And then, general costs. Your payment processors are all in the same realm of around a 3% transaction fee. So, it's a major cost, whether you go in network or out of network. That's kind of the rate that you're looking at for whenever you charge a client's card. But I think that if you do go in network, or if you're doing something like courtesy billing or out of network billing for your clients, you're either going to pay, that cost is going to fall on the client to do that work themselves. You can help them out. That's going to cost your time. You can get a biller. That's going to cost you money. So those are kind of things to consider. Each one has its pros and cons. Of course, working with insurance attracts a lot of clients in its own way. And I think the last category of what, and what to consider when you design this part of your practice and how you get paid is also the client experience. So, if you do make the decision to not go network with insurance, how can you support your clients in the best way so that they're also not concerned about their money and can focus on what they came to you for? And things like out of network billing applications can really help improve that. And so it's a huge consideration because that will help you improve your outcomes, retain your clients, and keep everyone happy.
We get into out of network billing a little bit. I think that a lot of therapists know, okay, there's in network and there's some work that goes around that. A lot of therapists know about super bills and just kind of providing some paperwork where it offloads a lot of the work to the clients to submit things to their insurance companies. What does it look like for out of network billing?
Generally what a therapist will do is hand their clients a super bill, and it kind of just works the same way as in network. It just falls on the client to do the process, right? So they'll submit that claim to an insurance company. The insurance company processes the claim, approves or denies it, and then sends the reimbursement funds back to the client. So it's kind of what the therapist would be facing if they were in network, right? If they were in network, they would be the one submitting the claim, waiting for the reimbursement. But the super bill is kind of a way that a client can go to their insurance directly, say, hey, I had this medical appointment. I paid this much money. Can I get reimbursement for this based on my health plan? That is the general process of what out of network billing is.
Well, I think that's what people typically do. And I think that's what you've done as a client, right, Raunak? It's something where it's so inconsistent. The client has to remember to submit it. They have to follow up. I know I do some of this. Curt, do you also do courtesy billing sometimes?
No.
So Curt doesn't do courtesy billing. So we need to tell Curt what courtesy billing is. Because I think it helps the clients a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, courtesy billing is a lot of therapists do offer that, and it's a way for it's a good middle ground because they're saying, hey, working with insurance is really stressful on me. I don't want to go down that route, but I also feel for the client. I want them, I don't want them stressing about their money. So I'll still generate your super bills, your claims. I'll submit them for you. I'll help you track that reimbursement, follow up. That I think the issue that can come with that is a lot of times therapists, they're going to call insurance through and reach like their general helpline. Like they don't necessarily have the infrastructure to make the process any more transparent or more streamlined. And so I think using tech is a really good way to bridge that gap.
So what does that look like? Because I know for me, the courtesy billing I do is actually with like a CMS 1500 form. I try to, I just basically don't accept assignment and it goes through, or except when it doesn't, and I have to reach out to Thrizer and get help to get this done. But with a company like Thrizer, what does out of network billing look like in that regard?
So there's a few key things there. One, our tech is integrated with insurance companies, and what that means is like we're not going to an insurance portal and like typing in our super bill or the CMS 1500. Like that is generated automatically after the appointment, directly submitted to their insurance. With integrations, what comes is real time claim statuses. So we ourselves can pull the status of those claims at any time and reflect that in our system. So, again, that adds so much transparency. A lot of times you're submitting a super bill and wondering, okay, like it's been 4 weeks. Where is that? Like, what's going on with that?
Well, I can do that. I could even have that happen with a CMS 1500 form. Like I put the information in, I send it off. I have no idea. And so you're saying that with your system, you get real-time information because you're actually integrated into the insurance.
Exactly, right.
Oh, wow,
And
that's
it
great.
and it starts with the benefit check, right? I mean, clients themselves will have to understand if they have out of network benefits. And either falls on the therapist or the client themselves. And you might use platforms to check that in real time. But a lot of times you're telling the client, hey, like call this number on the back of your insurance card. And that is probably one of the most frustrating experiences to kind of try to find someone who gives you a consistent answer. So, the benefit of companies like Thrizer and, companies in general who work at a greater volume with insurance companies is that we don't necessarily, we have our own direct representatives that we work with frequently. And what that means is like when we have a question on a claim or we need to get something resolved, we're not calling the 1-800 number on an insurance card, right? We have direct contact lines. We get answers faster. And that's because of the amount of volume that we work with them. And so, it's for us, it's easier to get claim statuses. It's easier to understand where something went wrong. And that's after if after the answer isn't there in real time for the clients.
For those of us who are operating outside of these systems, what kinds of out of network rates are you seeing clinicians get on this kind of stuff?
Yeah. That's a good question, and obviously a question that I get frequently. So out of network rates, whether you use a platform like Thrizer or not, are pretty consistent. I mean, it's always paid according to what's in the health plan. And I think what's good information for people to understand is that out of network appointments are reimbursed on what's called an allowed amount, which is essentially an insurance company saying, here is the maximum amount we're willing to reimburse for this specific medical service. Right. So a lot of times people get confused because that's not necessarily the same as what you charge. So a lot of therapists will come in and charge, $200, $250 for their session. And and then the insurance company will look at that and say, okay, I understand this is your rate, but we're only going to allow, quote unquote, $150 of that. And so the insurance will reimburse based on that 150. Now, what happens after that is dependent on the client's insurance plan, right? Do they have a copay? Do they have a co-insurance? So if a client doesn't have a copay or co-insurance, they're going to be getting that full 150 back in reimbursement. And if they have, say, a $25 copay, they're going to be getting 125 back in reimbursement. And that's kind of how that works. So when we talk about reimbursement rates, we're actually talking about allowed amounts. And you see, companies like United, Cigna, Aetna, kind of the bigger payers having larger allowed amounts, and that makes sense. And allowed amounts vary, again, depending on the client's insurance plan, how much they're paying in premiums. But we've seen a lot of amounts as high as 250, as low as $100. So yeah, it's not a super direct answer there, but what you can say is that it does vary based on insurance, and kind of taken across all of Thrizer's clients, we get between a 75 to 80% reimbursement rate on average, which again just should be taken with a grain of salt because there's just so much variation. But yeah, all in all, very, very good reimbursement rates. The issue just always comes back to how can we get the money from the insurance company to the client in the most transparent, stress-free, quick manner possible.
My thought process is, are you still considered a startup at this point? You're in the startup phase, so I know that you go through funding and that kind of stuff. How big of a deal is this out-of-network billing? Like clients trying to get their out-of-network benefits. Is that something that clients want to do consistently? Is it something that is, do you have numbers on that? Like how many clients, if given the choice and given an option where it's almost like an insurance claim, because it is like if they were able to do it easily and not have to like slog through the super bill process or talk to the insurance company themselves, how often do clients want to use their out-of-network benefits, do you think?
Yeah, and yes, okay, we are definitely still a startup. Yeah, we're not quite at that stage yet. Hopefully soon. So yeah, I mean, coming into therapy, and I'm kind of dividing this between clients who are longtime therapy goers and the clients who are just coming into therapy. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to be working with insurance companies directly, we see some pretty low percentages in how many people actually utilize their benefits, and even lower to how many people actually get reimbursement. So just from my experience talking, no hard data on this, but I would say for a lot of the private practice therapists that I talk to, less than 50-40% of their clients actually accept that super bill and submit it to the insurance, because either they're like, it's not worth it, nothing's going to happen, or they don't want to put in the effort if something does go wrong. And then within that 40%, even less really like successfully can get reimbursed. So I mean, it definitely happens, and it is important to a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, coming into therapy, it's a very high percentage, especially for a private pay therapist who is talking with a new client. Having something like Thrizer or out-of-network biller is can be a really powerful tool to have a client come in, start having sessions, because educating them on their out-of-network benefits, saying that you have this is it takes away that financial stress. And so you'll see a lot of the new clients who come in do attempt to use their out-of-network benefits, especially when they're using something like Thrizer. That's the whole reason they come to us.
Well, I think there's that element of, if they have that out-of-network benefit, they are more likely to be able to stay longer or to attend sessions more frequently. And it feels like it actually allows for a stronger therapeutic experience for folks who can't just afford to pay out of pocket every week.
Absolutely, 1000%. And yeah, I mean, when you're not super worried about, how is this impacting my family's income? How am I going to pay my mortgage? And you're just focused purely on how can I use my time in therapy to grow and achieve my goals. You see some really powerful outcomes.
Let's talk about actually how this works. Like when somebody is interested in signing up for Thrizer, what's the onboarding process? What does it look like from the therapist user end of things to actually do all of these wonderful things that you're waxing poetic about?
Well, we have built Thrizer to try to be as self-service as possible and quick to get started. The benefit of going out of network is that you're not waiting on insurance companies to panel you, to register you, whatever messiness that process entails. So really getting set up with Thrizer is like getting set up with a Square, Stripe, PayPal, whatever payment processor you might use. You're going to create an account. You're going to enter information about your practice, like your tax ID, your NPI, practice name, address, things like that. and you're going to add your clients to Thrizer. That entire process there takes less than a couple of minutes. What happens after you add your clients is they get notifications to, an email to join Thrizer, and their onboarding process is also very quick. Again, it's similar to setting up like a PayPal. They're going to go in, they're going to create their account, connect a payment method, and the difference is, of course, they enter their insurance information. So that's what the setup process actually looks like. Very quick from both ends, and really, it's from a clinician standpoint, it's really just putting in the key information that you need to start collecting payments from your clients. After that, you treat Thrizer like any other payment application, right? You'll have your appointment with your clients as usual, use your EHR as usual. The difference is you'll just log into Thrizer to hit charge once that appointment ends. And the way that Thrizer works is that charging the client and submitting the claim happens simultaneously. So anytime you charge in a client for an appointment, the claim is automatically generated, submitted directly to the insurance. So there's no work for the clinician or client. The client will be notified, hey, this claim is generated, submitted to your insurance, log into your portal to see its status at any time. And that's how the general process works. And I kind of talked about earlier, like the status will update in the portal in real time. And when that reimbursement does kick in, it kind of is directed directly back to the client via direct deposit.
So we've had some questions online because we've been partnering with you for quite some time now, and there's a lot of questions about how can you make a profit if you're doing all this stuff just for the payment processing fee, and do you have enough information actually to do a whole bill, a super bill, or CMS 1500 form? Speak to the business practices and the quality assurance that you have in place so that we can reassure all our folks. We're asking the questions, the burning questions that they've had about how this actually works.
Absolutely. And I'll address both those points. I mean, first, I'll kind of talk about how the claim is actually generated. So there's two sets of information. I mean, one that you enter one time, and then two that you'll enter anytime you charge a client. So when you set up your Thrizer account, you will set it up with your NPI, tax ID, practice name, practice address. All of that is inputted, and that all that information populates on the claim each time it's generated. But you don't need to sit and type that each time. Same with the client specific information, their member ID, their date of birth, things like that is all a one-time entry. And then the last thing is the client's ICD-10 code, so their diagnosis. That, of course, can be changed, can be edited, but you don't need to enter that each time. So a lot of the information needed for a claim isn't stuff that you need to populate. It's stuff that is stored. You enter once, it's stored, you change as and when you need to. And a lot of that is generated each time you have a claim. And then the other side of stuff is there's a few things, right, that kind of you'll confirm as you add a charge in Thrizer. One is the amount that you charge the client. So that's the billed amount that's going to go to the insurance. Two is the type of appointment, right? Are you doing an individual therapy session, a couples, group, medication management, et cetera, et cetera. The length of the appointment, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, et cetera. And those set of information is what generates a CPT code on our claim.
You also have location on there too.
Exactly.
So if you do it
and the
virtually
last part is,
or in person.
Exactly. Yeah. Last field you would enter as you're adding the charge is the location. And so, right. So kind of we try to make it so that you're not sitting entering all the needed information each time you add a charge. It's as streamlined as possible. And you really only need to enter / confirm what you need to before hitting charge.
So I mean, I've used Thrizer. It's pretty easy. It's straightforward, and you're able to, kind of put all of that in. It goes straight through. It also tells you if the payment's going through or not, and so that you're able to follow up with your client if like their credit card doesn't go through or whatever. And so that's pretty straightforward. I will assure everyone all of the information is there that you need for a claim. But it still doesn't explain how you're charging so little. I mean, it's only that 3% payment processing fee. And, there's not a lot more that you're actually charging anybody, the client or us. So how do you make money? Because that's very little per claim. If you're
Mhm.
if you're still at that Stripe 2.99% plus a 30-cent charge per claim. So how do you do it, Raunak? What is actually happening here?
Yeah, and I think that's why I think we have such a powerful differentiator in focusing on kind of the financial infrastructure side of healthcare. And the focus for us has been, there's so much friction when you talk about the movement of funds from patient to provider to insurance and so forth. So a lot of our focus is hey, how can we partner with leading payments companies to improve these systems in healthcare? And so when we're talking about payment processing, we're earning our money the same way that Stripe does, for example. I mean, we have partnerships with companies like that. And so it's just that we have this extra side of insurance billing. And so, the payment processing fee that we charge is, it's sufficient. It earns us quite a bit of revenue, and we can support a larger amount of our operations that way. If you guys kind of seen, we're starting to get much louder about a paid service called ThrizerPlus, and again, it comes down to having that in-house financial infrastructure. It gives us the option to launch features like ThrizerPlus, which makes, essentially what it is, it's a payment plan for clients, right? So they have the option to, instead of paying in full and waiting for reimbursement, to pay just their copay and opt in for Thrizer to wait for them. And so features like that.
Say that louder and slower so that way people can understand just how cool this is.
Yeah, exactly. And we're starting to really get loud. I mean, we kind of were tested this last year. It was a overwhelming success. People loved it. And so if you go into Thrizer.com right now, you'll see we have a whole page set up for it, and it kind of explains how it works. But essentially, we kind of talked about the standard process. You're going to be going and paying your therapist $150, for example, for your session, and then Thrizer at least takes care of the everything else. And maybe in a week or so you'll get that $125 back. And for a lot of people that works. That's great. For others, they're saying, hey, I don't want to pay 150 and then wait for 125 back. Like, I don't want to be subject to random delays that may happen, or just paying that 150 up front and then waiting is put in a burden. So we have the opportunity for people to opt into something called Thrizer Plus, which says, hey, instead of paying 150 and waiting for 125 back, just pay $25 up front and allow Thrizer to wait for that 125 for you. And that specific feature, to tie this back into your previous question, Katie, that specific feature costs money for the client, and features like that is how we continue to kind of monetize this platform.
So I'm sure that some of this will shift over time, and because this is going to be an evergreen episode, we can talk more about kind of ballpark. But if a client opts into Thrizer Plus and basically says, I'm not paying up front, I'll pay, obviously once you figure out the benefits, all that stuff, I'll pay what I owe, the copay or the co-insurance or whatever. In general terms, how much more is it to pay for Thrizer Plus?
Yeah. So currently the fee that we charge is a 5% fee of the reimbursement amount. So the amount that Thrizer is fronting, quote unquote. So, that 5% is not going to be based on the 150 rate. It's going to be based on the 125 rate that the client is getting back. So going back to my previous example, instead of paying 150 and waiting for 125 back, the client has the option to pay the $25 copay plus a 5% fee, which 5% of 125 is about $6. So they'll pay the $25 copay, the $6 Thrizer fee, for a total of about $31. And going from 150 to paying $31, it can help a lot of people out. And we're seeing an incredible amount of people go down this route. Because that essentially, to them, that's just like, hey, that's a copay.
To clarify the options, so regular old Thrizer is therapists just use Thrizer as a payment processor. They still get their full fee up front with a 3% payment processing fee taken off. And then clients are in there, they get reimbursed to their bank account, assuming that's how it works. I think you and I talked about sometimes they'll get sent checks, but mostly it's reimbursement through to actually direct deposited into their bank account. But if they opt into ThrizerPlus, they pay, let's say, $31. The therapist gets paid $150, and Thrizer waits for the $125 to come back.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, so the beauty of this is that the therapist earns their rate either way. So whether the client chooses Thrizer Basic or Thrizer Plus, the therapist is still going to get their 150 minus that 3% processing fee. So the option of Thrizer Plus exists for clients specifically, whether they, what works better for you. Do you want to wait for that reimbursement? Totally fine. We make that as fast as possible. Or do you want to pay your copay? That option with Thrizer Plus is there as well.
I'm just stunned in thinking that there's people like, yeah, we'll wait on the insurance companies coming back. You guys must really have that influence with the insurance companies that you're willing to be like, no, look at me, you're paying me now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, it kind of comes back to we talk about why I think Thrizer has a great differentiator. It's because we focus a lot on the financial infrastructure of healthcare, and that's really in the space that we're building. If you really want to look into what we do, so yeah, I mean, when we just try to make the movement of money much faster, much more seamless, and given that we give people more flexibility, better cash flow, and more and more.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier, a lot of these payment processors all cost around 3%. What else makes Thrizer different in this space?
And yeah, I think that is really where we differentiate. So from other out-of-network billers, it is these payment processing / financial infrastructure side of us that it makes us really different and more streamlined and more simple and powerful. From payment processes itself, the differentiator for us is the integration with health insurances, right? So I mean, you can go to someone like Stripe or Square. It's just that you're going to be handling the super bills on your own, whether you or the client does that. So I think we've done something really cool in connecting the payment processing world with the health insurance world, and allowing those two things to work together. So we can automate the mess and maze of health insurance while also giving clients flexible payment options, streamlined reimbursements, full transparency into their claims. So yeah, I mean, we differentiate via payment processors that way because we have this whole health insurance side to us. And so that's why we like to brand ourselves as, we're a payments platform for mental health care professionals.
What's still a work in progress? What is in development that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I talk about Thrizer, I love to talk about kind of the grand vision and what we're building. But yeah, it is definitely a work in progress, and it's tough building these two monsters in under one product. So we're really excited about a lot of things coming. I think that we're having some major improvements to our ThrizerPlus process because of the amount of volume that we're seeing and the demand we're seeing for that. We're making insurance even more transparent. So we're adding things like real-time benefits widget for our customers who, can log into Thrizer and they get on a call with a prospect, and the prospect says, hey, you don't accept my insurance. You're going to Thrizer. You can log into Thrizer, plug in their insurance information and say, yes, but you're going to get X amount back in reimbursement. And you can check that in seconds. And to continue to improve our integrations with health insurance companies, our infrastructure to make it Thrizer faster, more clear, more simple. And we just go based off a lot of feedback that we get from our users. So just trying to make the platform more intuitive, more self-service, just cleaner, more seamless. Thrizer definitely is a work in progress. It's not perfect, but we're super excited for all the changes that are coming.
And you have a special offer for our audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. For all my friends at Modern Therapist, we are, I mean, we like to offer, people who come in through our partners like this, just kind of free payment processing for a period of time. So the offer is essentially, you can come into Thrizer and test out a bunch of payments, see how the process works, and you're not going to have to pay that 3% payment processing fee. And the figure is $2,500 in payments. So what that means is for the first $2,500 that you charge in Thrizer, there's not going to be a 3% fee tacked on that. So you can come in, enjoy Thrizer, see how it works, see for yourself the benefit, and kind of risk-free see that this is the real deal.
And so I think you have a special link. It's like bit.ly/modern therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Modern therapists. I think it has S at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put that in our show notes so people can find it, because that's an awesome offer. That's so amazing.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the things we're going to be improving to, kind of our whole referral promotion process. So there's a way for you to enter referral code in as you sign up for Thrizer or from your Thrizer account, and that promotion will apply.
Great. And I think our code is Modern Therapist, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Great.
And where can people find you, follow you? Obviously, Thrizer.com.
Yeah, I mean, my email is Raunak@Thrizer.com. First name @Thrizer.com. Super simple. I'm pretty responsive. I think Katie hopefully can attest to that.
Absolutely.
Try to be as responsive as I can be, but yeah, we're getting much more active on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. So, @Thrizer.app on any of those platforms.
And we'll also include links to those in our show notes over at mtsgpodcast.com. And until next time, I'm Curt Whithelm with Katie Renoy and Raunak Sharma.
All right, Modern Therapists. So this is the time in the episode when Curt and I pull aside and let you know our thoughts about the folks that we're interviewing for our consumer guide episodes, just to give you our take on who this is right for, who it may not be right for, and just anything else we think it's good for you to know if you're making a decision on whether you're going to use their products. So Thrizer. I've used Thrizer for a while. I think that there is a lot about it that's really, really good. And I'm enjoying their support. I'm enjoying the service that they have. I think there's still a work in progress. There's some streamlining they're going to do. And as they do that, I think they're going to just be unbeatable as a payment processing application.
And I think from my end of things, I run a group practice. We do a lot of just issuing super bills through our current EHR. And this looks really exciting for a practice like ours. We're not versed in insurance. We issue out super bills once a month, and a lot of the work ends up going to the client side, and especially where we're focused on making the client experience better. Being able to actually look at how this works and being able to see how entering client information into this would work, even if it means kind of having two separate systems for billing, it makes it seem so much better on the client end for a practice like ours, where we're not like fully versed in insurance sorts of things. I know in the EHR system that we use, we could do out-of-network billing, we could issue things, but that form just kind of seems a little intimidating, and it feels like if I push the wrong thing, am I now just like on an insurance panel and I didn't mean to sign up for something? Am I going to get checks that I don't really want to have sent to me? I want to get paid for the services in a reasonable amount of time. I don't want to be waiting around forever for things. I assume that my clients feel the same way. As a consumer, when I go to my providers and they give me a super bill, sometimes, if they hand me a paper one in the office, sometimes I lose it before I even get to my car, let alone if it makes it to my house and then it gets set down someplace and I don't find it again. This just seems like something that ends up being a lot just out of sight, out of mind for just a few extra clicks on our end as clinicians. And to me, that makes it all worthwhile. And especially if the processing fees end up being cheaper than I can get them elsewhere, that all just sounds like a bonus to me.
I agree. I think for folks who have not done any insurance, who are only doing super bills, switching to Thrizer makes a lot of sense, especially for larger practices where that payment processing fee difference is going to make a difference. For folks who are already billing insurance, which I was, so I'm able to do some of the super bills or courtesy billing, and it's not scary to me. I think the benefit here is for folks who already know how to do the forms and could do them in their EHR, the benefit is to have, whether it's ThrizerPlus, so the client can actually pay less. And so there's not that, they're not agonizing waiting for the reimbursement. ThrizerPlus is an amazing add-on. I think the other part is the work for the therapist, even if they know how to do courtesy billing, can be much less if they're able to offload some of this to Thrizer because they have those relationships with the insurance company. The other thing too is, let's say I do courtesy billing through my EHR, which I'm able to do. Clients get a check and then have to deposit it. They actually do direct deposit for a lot of their clients. And so it's super easy on the client side versus on our side. Even if it's not that hard for you to do in your EHR, it still is a little bit more friction in some ways for the client.
So, I mean, the offer to get the free month's worth of things, this is worth spending the time just testing it out. I give it, my, 4 cardigans out of 4, like go and try it.
Well, I think one thing that we also do is who is it not for? And I think potentially for folks who have a hybrid practice or a primarily insurance practice, Thrizer doesn't add a lot of benefit to you.
Sure, I can see that.
You're already doing the insurance billing. Maybe you already have a biller. And so they don't do in-network insurance billing as of now. And so I think it's that thing of, for folks who are deeply into the insurance world, it may not add benefit. It might just add complication.
And I think that, if you're somebody who's followed us on the podcast for a while here, we're not going to tell you something that, you need to buy every product. And I think that this is just one of those moments where, if you've got the systems down, like Katie is describing, don't do it if it's not right for you.
Certainly you can check it out. You can get an account and check it out to see if it might streamline some stuff for you. But I think if you're an insurance practice, completely an insurance practice, this isn't for you at all. But if you're a hybrid practice, it may be. It just depends on how many private pay clients you have and how much you're wanting to offload that. But I think it's primarily for those of us in private practice who are private pay, that don't know how to deal with insurance, don't want to deal with insurance at all. I think this is a really good thing to check out to see if it'll work and if you can put your systems in place for it.
Check them out.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide. Learn more about who we are and what we do at mtsgpodcast.com. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter. And please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes.